Everyone signed the wedding guest book, a tradition as old as signatures. Welcome to another episode of the Unmasked History of Scooby Doo, the podcast where we delve into the mystery of Scooby Doo media, getting clues from people who helped bring our favorite mystery solving dog to life on various platforms, and maybe eating some Scooby snacks along the way. I'm your host, Alexa Lawler.
Maybe it's me who needs to understand Fred. You know, walk a mile in his ascot.
So, let me get this straight. To stop annoying Fred, you're going to become Fred, which is guaranteed to annoy Fred?
Sandwich, big sandwich.
Build that sandwich high.
Sandwich, big sandwich.
Up into the sky.
He used to say, "Whoa, nobody move. My tuna fish sandwich is missing."
Well, that's a weird thing to say.
Welcome to the fourth episode in this month's Be Cool Scooby-Doo theme. In this episode, I had the chance to chat with writer Josie Campbell. Josie wrote 4 episodes for Be Cool: The Norse Case Scenario, Scooby Dooby Doo, Eating Crow, and Sorcerer Snack Scare. Recently, Josie has worked on She-Ra and the Princesses of Power and Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. Hi, Josie. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Alexa?
I'm good. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Yeah, of course. This is going to be fun, I think.
Definitely. So if you're up for it, are you down for 3 questions of Scooby-related trivia?
Yeah, let's go.
Question 1. In the episode Scooby Dooby Doo, what are the names of the gang's friends who are getting married?
Boy, you're already out the gate. I'm like, boy, I wrote this like 4 years ago. I believe it's Kimmy and Nate are the 2 getting married.
That is correct.
Yay!
And question 2. In one episode, the gang is investigating a sorcerer haunting a factory. What kind of factory is it?
It is a snack factory.
Yes, it is. And last question for the trivia. In the Norse Case Scenario, what is the motive for the Viking ghost attacks?
Oh boy, they are posing as bird watchers because they are trying to illegally log in the Minnesota, I think, woods.
Yes, that is correct.
Great. I remembered things I wrote 4 years ago fairly well.
Perfect. Did you watch them at all recently, or was that just all off of memory?
Oh no, I definitely watched them. Although some of the things that I remember, I usually remember who like it basically a person masquerading as the monster turns out to be, and I remember gags. I can't always remember the names of everybody involved in each episode.
Fair enough. So to kick off the general questions, what's your relationship to Scooby-Doo? Did you grow up watching?
Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much like every kid in America and kind of across the world. I grew up watching Scooby Doo. I specifically grew up watching Pup Named Scooby Doo. That was my entry into the Scooby au revoir. And I was a big Pup Named Scooby Doo fan as a kid. And then Cartoon Network, which was just getting started when I was a kid in the 90s, would do big marathons where they'd rerun basically every Scooby-Doo series under the sun, from, original Scooby-Doo to, the 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo. So, like, I would go back and forth from Pup Named Scooby-Doo to episodes where Phyllis Diller would show up, and I'd have to have my parents explain who Phyllis Diller was. And it's actually very funny because, I started working in animation in like 2012, 2013. And Scooby-Doo was one of the first things I started working on. And I found out pretty quickly that it's a show that gets rerun across the world a lot, like that and like Looney Tunes. So I'll like go to my dentist office, and my dentist is from the Philippines, and all he wants to do is talk about Scooby-Doo because that was like the main kid show they had reruns of growing up. So it's a real international talking point whenever I go anywhere.
Oh, that's awesome. And so how did you come to work in animation?
So I originally went to school in Boston for TV writing and theater, and I actually, when I moved out to Los Angeles about 11 years ago now, my first job was actually at Warner Brothers. Not in the animation side, I was doing web series for Warner Brothers and WB.com, and then I had a couple of friends who got hired by Warner Brothers Animation, and specifically working for Alan Burnett as basically writer's assistants. And they're the ones who sort of put my script in front of Alan and other producers at Warner Brothers. And they really liked my sample script. And actually, the very first job pitch I came in for was a Scooby Doo DVD that ended up not happening. That was like all about an amusement park. But that was like literally the first thing I ever pitched on in animation was a Scooby Doo DVD. And then from there, I got brought in for other shows. I worked on Teen Titans Go. I worked on Justice League Action. I worked on Banicula, and I'm trying to remember. There's one more I'm forgetting. But basically, I got brought in 2014. I think I'm remembering right. By John Colton Berry, along with a couple of other writers who were both all friends of mine, and also we all did sketch comedy and stand-up comedy together, to come in and do basically a week-long writer's room for this new Scooby-Doo show he was rebooting, Be Cool Scooby-Doo. And so that was basically the most involved with Scooby I've ever been.
That sounds so great. It's too bad that DVD didn't end up being made. It sounds like it would have been really cool.
Thank you. Well, they're now doing a bunch of other cool DVDs. I think you talked to my pal Jeremy about the Scooby Natural stuff that he and Jim Krieg did. So it's if it ever comes back, we'll definitely be talking about it again.
Definitely. And was writing for animation something that you had always wanted to do? Something you had pictured yourself doing?
Well, I knew I wanted to write. I don't think even at the time when I was going to college, I realized that writing for animation was a career you could have. I think that I was a big animation fan. Like I said, I grew up watching Scooby Doo. When I was a teenager, I got super invested in Justice League Unlimited. I loved, Superman the animated series, Batman the animated series. But I think when I went to college, I was thinking of sitcoms and sketch comedy. And it wasn't until moving out to Los Angeles and again, having friends who got work at Warner Brothers Animation that I realized, oh, wait, there's this whole world of animation writers. And every show that I love is animated. This makes sense. So it was moving out here and realizing the opportunity was here. But also me being a big animation nerd and realizing, oh, all I want to do is write, like funny, like cartoons and action adventure cartoons. This is what I should be doing.
And just going back here, what was the process and intention of the writer's room?
Basically, John brought us in as writers, essentially. The idea was he and Zach were rebooting Be Cool Scooby-Doo. They wanted to basically come up with a lot of premises and a lot of monsters that they could use. And then the whole idea of that room was that we'd come in, we'd all work together with John, we'd come up with premises and monsters, we'd get those approved by Warner Brothers, and then we would pick our favorites basically and write off of that list. And then those premises, if we couldn't get to them, would also get assigned to other writers. So I came in basically knowing that they wanted me to write at least an episode, maybe one or two, and then I just happened to have the luck of writing, I think, 4 or 5 episodes for that first season.
And were the ideas that you pitched the ones that you got to write?
Yes. It's really funny because sort of re-looking at the episodes, a lot of the monsters and a lot of the reveals stayed the same, but all of the specifics changed. A big thing that we did in that room was talk about monsters, basically talk about the various disguises and various reasons somebody would be, putting on a monster mask and running off meddling kids. So I was trying to say, I think out of that first conversation, we came up with the idea for Eating Crow, which was the Scarecrow monster, which is actually sort of an homage to one of the 70s Scooby-Doos, where they've got a Scarecrow monster that looks almost exactly like that. And then the same thing for Sorcerer Snack Scare, where we had the idea of like, well, let's retcon and work backwards and kind of come up with the original origin of Scooby Snacks. I Scooby Dooby Doo and Norse Case Scenario, we actually came up with later on, but it was always premises that either we had broken with John or that John had sort of broken and gotten approved on his own. And he's like, you know what, you'd be great at writing about these Norse Vikings in the woods.
And going off of that, Norse Case Scenario has a really great, are they called haircut scenes where
Yes.
Shaggy and Scooby distract the monster?
Yep.
Do you get to come up with those as the writer?
Yes, absolutely. They're absolutely called haircut scenes. And yes, basically almost every gag you see on screen, we either came up with a version of, or it's what we wrote. The other thing we talked about in that initial room was the fact that each episode would have a song component. And even that, because we knew that had to fill like 30 seconds to a minute, we wouldn't write the lyrics to the song. That was Zach and John, I believe, but we would write what happens. Basically, every gag that you see on screen was something that we came up with in the script, or we came up with riffing back and forth with John and with Marley. And then once it got to the directors and board artists, they would plus it. They would add stuff to it. Occasionally, they would change the haircut scenes, or they would change the chase scenes. But for the most part, they would keep the gags as is and just like add extra bits to them, which was super fun to see because it was basically I got to write just a bunch of funny classic Scooby and Shaggy stuff, and then I got to see various board artists like bring that to life.
That is so fun. What was your favorite part or some of your favorite moments from working on Be Cool Scooby-Doo?
I think there was a couple. I think I got the privilege to actually work with Marley a lot, who at the time was actually my fiance. So when we wrote I Scooby Dooby Doo, we were writing that together as we were planning our own wedding. So it's sort of fun because the Kimmy and Nate characters have our haircuts. And a lot of the superstitions or families not getting together was very much we're just pulling this from our real lives. I also really liked working on Sorcerer Snack Scare because that came out of also talking to John and Marley about the fact that it's kind of messed up that throughout Scooby-Doo, they're just bribing Scooby and Shaggy to do things against their will. So that was like the whole runner with Daphne and with them throwing snacks at them. And then I also really enjoyed writing the puppet scene because that's actually something that really happened to me. Before I started working in animation, I was working as a reporter for this website called Comic Book Resources, and I got to do this press junket for the Muppets movie. And so I was going to interview this Muppeteer, and I go to interview him, and like their assistant's like, no, you're interviewing the Muppet. You can't talk to the puppeteer. He will pretend that he doesn't exist. I'm like, well, that's crazy. No, I'm gonna talk to the human man. And I went in the room, and it was literally like what happened to Velma, where I'm like, hey, I've got some questions for you. And he has the puppet on his hand, and he's like, who are you talking to? So I guess the most fun I had on Be Cool was putting in things from my own life into the Scooby-Doo characters canon.
Oh my gosh, that is fantastic.
It was very, it truly is, art imitates life, I guess, because it was very much, oh boy, here is exactly what happened to me. Get ready, John.
Definitely. I don't know if I could stay in character that long, but that is why I'm not a puppeteer.
It was truly impressive. Like I tried a couple of different times, and each time the guy's like, "I'm Walter the puppet. Who knows who you're talking to? That's crazy." And I'm like, "All right, man, this is your life in your interview. Let's talk to the puppet."
Oh my goodness. And what was your writing process for an episode of Be Cool? Is it fairly straightforward, or do you have any like weird or interesting quirks to your process?
It's Scooby Doo. It's like a little column A and a little column B because usually the pitch process is pretty straightforward. We kind of come up with the a lot of this was actually working backwards of like, well, we know we want to use this monster, and hey, wouldn't it be really funny if like instead of one scarecrow, there's two scarecrows and they're trying to scare each other, and kind of working backwards from the reveal that we knew we wanted. So a lot of it was coming up with sort of the ending and then being like, great, like, what's the character arcs to get there? What's Daphne doing? What's the haircut scene? What are the clues? So that part was straightforward. Writing it was writing any other script. I think the thing that was specific to Scooby-Doo and like a specific quirk was trying to figure out clues. Because it's not just like a half-hour comedy show, like it's a low-level mystery. So if you would build your sort of episode around the clues leading to the reveal, but the clues were always the part that the executives had the most notes on, which made it actually really difficult because if they were like, oh, we don't like this clue, we don't want to see footprints, change this, then that kind of changed every scene around it because, you're going to the barn because of the footprints. They go to this next place because of this next clue. So if you change one clue, all of a sudden you're having to like re-break the whole episode because you've built it around where they're going so they can solve this mystery. And that part, as I've never encountered that in any of the other things that I've written, it's so specific to Scooby that you would just like, John would be like, I have a clues note. And I'd be like, no, but I just built it all around this one clue. I don't want to change it now.
Oh gosh, I could see that being a little frustrating.
But like honestly, it was outside of the clues, it was a lot of fun because I mean, Be Cool was very specifically like a going back to like the comedy episodic feel in a lot of ways. Like it looked different, the humor was updated, but like I would say in a lot of ways this is like the most basic Scooby-Doo like reboot they've done. It really was like, here's an episode, here's the clues, we're gonna do a classic haircut scene, we're gonna do a classic chase, there's gonna be a lot of gags, and then it's all gonna be like wrapped up in a fun reveal. So it was very satisfying to be able to work on a weirdly modern classic version of these characters where you just got to like really unleash your inner gag writer and like write up all of the, haircut scenes and all of the like fun gags that, you've been holding in because you're a Scooby-Doo fan.
Definitely. And other than the clues, did you find any challenges in writing for Scooby at all?
I think it's kind of a challenge, but I actually really like it. We really held fast to the sort of slightly self-imposed rule that like Scooby never talks more than 5 words, and really you should say 4 if like you have to. Because we like I don't think any of us, and especially not John and Zach, like it when like Scooby goes on long monologues. Like I think it's really fun and like really like the heart of Scooby that like he does talk, but like it's not that much. So like whenever like Scooby would say a joke, we would always be like counting on our fingers or like, okay, okay, that's 3 words, he's good, he's in the clear. If it's 6 words, we're gonna cut this out, he's talking too much.
Oh, I think that makes it like just total Scooby that way.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, a lot of the idea of this really was, yes, the designs look different and from pretty much any other Scooby version that's ever been done, but like we want it to feel like classic Scooby-Doo. We want Scooby to feel like Scooby, like from the 60s and 70s when he's saying only a couple of things and those things are mainly jokes.
Definitely. And going off the designs, that is one of the main criticisms for the show. And there's like a handful of people that just, refuse to watch it because of how it looks. What would you maybe say to those people?
Oh boy, yeah. I like I said, like I slightly get it because this is a franchise that's been around for decades. And like even shows like, Mystery Incorporated, which is awesome, the way they changed the format around was, making it more of a serialized show with like emotional arcs and beats and mysteries like that overarch the entire season. But like even they didn't really change the way it looked. Like it's very like everybody has tweaked Hanna-Barbera, but nobody's done a complete reboot until Be Cool that looks different. So I would say I get it because, you have nostalgia, you like these characters. But I do think that despite the way it looks, what we were doing really was trying to get to the essence of those old Scooby-Doos. Like truly, like the marching orders were, let's do Scooby-Doo again. Let's just update the sensibilities for basically the modern era. And let's really hit all of the hallmarks of a classic Scooby-Doo. And I would say I think that we did that. I think that if the style has sort of like made you feel like, oh, this isn't Scooby, this is some weird thing that I don't like, I'd say maybe give it a chance, because I think the way we were writing it was absolutely in step with the way Scooby-Doo has been written and was written in like basically that like, the original like 60s, 70s Scooby mysteries.
Definitely. And I think Be Cool is one of, if not the funniest incarnation of Scooby-Doo. What was it like to really lean into the comedy?
Oh, it was really, really fun. I mean, like I said, like that first initial room was me. It was Justin Becker, Steve Clemens, and Marley. And I can't remember if Ben Joseph was there or not, but we all had done sketch comedy and stand-up comedy together. So it was like really fun to be able to sort of like punch up Scooby-Doo. It was really fun to work with each other. And it was really fun for us to like sort of do teasing homages to the original, or like even like poke a little bit of fun at some of the like, very classic Scooby conventions. Like we had a lot of fun when we came up with the idea for the ending of Eating Crow, where it's not only the two farmers, but then they're like, oh wait, we'll just work together. Nobody has to go to jail. Like, sure, we put on masks, but that's technically not illegal. We'll just both be rich from this natural gas underneath our farms. And like, I remember all of us like coming up with and punching up Fred being so insistent that somebody has to go to jail because that's the way this works. So it was a lot of fun to be like here, or like I was gonna say in I Scooby-Doo, the wedding episode, we had a lot of fun with Velma, because we would always make jokes about the fact that in the old show, everybody would jump into her arms and she'd like run around with like carrying like 50 people. So we had like her like hurtling off a cliff and like saving Daphne and jumping back up a cliff and carrying her to safety, because it was like, oh, this is like funny jokes, but like always because we were like really excited about the jokes that already existed in the old show that we could sort of like put a spin on that's like, all right, but like also this is very silly.
For sure. And in 2 of the episodes that you worked on, we see a bit more character development for Velma, in what you mentioned, but also in Eating Crow, we see that she has allergies. And of course, in I Scooby Dooby Doo, Velma can't walk gracefully in heels and just stomps around in them. Where did those ideas come from? Was that just your brilliance?
Well, thank you. The Velma having allergies was something that I came up with. I think Eating Crow was the one that was like the most intricately plotted, because we thought it was really funny for like Velma, who's usually the one who's like, really smart and solving things, to be like just sneezing and out of it the whole time. But also we really like the idea that like at the end, part of the reveal is that she's like, I had 2 different allergic reactions going on to the 2 different straws that were like in the Scarecrow outfits. And that's how I knew there were 2 people. And then for the wedding episode, like that was me and Marley riffing back and forth, because we didn't want to like, Velma is a character that like it'd be easy to sort of poke fun at, because like she's usually always in that like orange ensemble. She's often seen as like the dowdy one, and we really liked the idea that like instead of doing the like expected joke of like, she can't walk in heels, it was the opposite. It's these heels give her strength and she can just kick ass in them and stomp around. Plus, we had done stuff in the past with Kate Micucci, who voices Velma, and we're like, it is going to be so funny to listen to Kate Micucci making stomping noises and grunting and like triumphantly shouting that the heels are making her stronger and she can do more in the heels.
Oh, it's such a good moment.
It was a lot of fun. I think like in the script are like, because we write in efforts into the script, so you know, if somebody like is like punched, you would write punching effort and then the actor just makes a sound. And I think for Kate we just wrote stomping efforts, so that was like all her just being like stomp 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 as she was recording it, which was so fun.
And I think Kate's Velma, especially in Be Cool, just is so fun and like something that we've never seen for Velma before.
Oh yeah, no, it was very exciting. I mean, obviously, I think Frank Welker was still doing Fred, but it was super exciting to have Kate come on, both because we knew her, and then she's just so funny. Like she brings like a really funny dimension to Velma. Like it made me think a little bit of like Linda Cardellini from the live action movies, but like she did her own funny thing, which was so joyous to see.
Definitely. And out of your episodes, do you have a favorite or one that still sticks in your mind?
I'm trying to think. I think it's funny because I think the things that stick in my mind are either the haircuts or the gags. Like I'm still very proud of in Norse Case Scenario where they're in jail and they're like, we're in forest jail, and then Velma points out we're 18, which means we're going to be tried as forest adults. I do think that I Scooby Dooby Doo is my favorite one. Somewhat personally, because again, that was the one that, you know, I was writing with Marley while we were planning our own wedding, sort of writing in every crazy thing that was happening to us. Obviously not a ghost, but like, you know, warring parents and everything. And I also think that that one came out, I think, the best and the closest to sort of the script that we wrote, because that was also one where we got to do sort of a couple of other polish passes on it rather than it just being John sort of working on his own. So I think that one holds a special place in my heart for sentimental reasons, and because I really love watching Velma stomp around. I just really will still laugh at that by myself.
Yeah, like I said, like that is just such a good Velma moment.
It really is. I mean, honestly, like growing up outside of Shaggy and Scooby, Velma was like my third favorite. So it was really fun to be able to like write stuff that we knew that Kate was going to just knock out of the park.
For sure. And did you have a favorite character to write for out of the gang?
It kind of depended on the episode, actually. Like it really shifted on who basically had like the most like fun gags, essentially. Like I really liked writing Velma in Eating Crow, and I really liked writing her in I Scooby Dooby Doo, but I really enjoyed writing Shaggy and Scooby in I Scooby Dooby Doo. I loved writing Shaggy not knowing how to write a best man speech, and that Scooby was the officiant. Like I that was super fun to me. And then I think Daphne was the most fun to write in Sorcerer Snack Scare, because I kind of loved that that was an episode she got to be the straight man in. Like a lot of the Be Cool episodes, she would have a gimmick, or she'd have like a very specific sort of like gag she'd be doing. It'd be puppets. It's her collecting the farm animals. But like I really liked that in this one episode, she's just like commenting that it's really ethically messed up to bribe your friends.
Definitely. And what was it like to come in on a Scooby Doo project when you had grown up watching the show?
It was really fun. I mean, it was really special for me because it was also the first time I had worked in a sort of room. It wasn't like later on where I would write on She-Ra or Jurassic World, where there was an established writer's room that you went into every day. This was just sort of a week-long writer's summit. But up until that point, I had been freelancing. So to be able to like get that call to come in, we're going to have a room and we're going to talk Scooby-Doo, felt really special to me and really exciting. It was, I think, one of the projects that I was most excited about, sort of that I was working on that year.
And what was the atmosphere like in that room?
It was fun. It was, like I said, it was very friendly because again, I was friends with Justin and Marley, and I friends with Justin and Steve. I obviously knew Marley at that point. And John Colton Berry, who was running the show, running the room, was just so fun to work with. He did a really good job, sort of like trying to like brainstorm with us and come up with things that weren't just like, just okay gags, but like really, really like reach for like what's the funniest thing we could possibly do here, or what's the best idea, or what's like the most fun homage we can pay to the old show. It was, yeah, Zach would step in from time to time and we'd pitch him things, but it really felt like it felt like a group of friends hanging out, just sort of all riffing on characters and things that we all thought were funny. And like the whole point of that room was to basically like try to one up each other to make everybody else laugh. Because, if everybody else was laughing, then hopefully the audience would too.
Definitely. And why do you think that a cartoon like Scooby-Doo has held up for over 50 years now?
It's so funny because it's yeah, like you said, it's 50 years, man. It's crazy. I kind of think that it's got that like strange combination that like makes something weirdly timeless, even though like it is so like Shaggy and Scooby started as such like basically like parodies of sort of like that like 60s 70s like beatnik hippie, but like there's something about them that's really fun to watch. I think that like I don't know, all over the world everybody loves a hungry coward, and I think the combination of the fact that they're funny, the fact that they're solving like incredibly silly mysteries, that they are wearing like the villains are wearing these crazy masks. The fact that people, even if someone quote unquote doesn't like a Scooby Doo, they're like still like sort of laughing about like the premises or what they did. Like I think it just is this strange zeitgeist where every piece came together in a way that really responds with people. Like we like it because it's funny and it's silly and it's fun. And at the end of the day, a talking dog and his scared owner get to like eat a sandwich. Like maybe that's all we want out of life, is just have an adventure with some friends, find out that it wasn't like a scary monster, it was just a guy who's counterfeiting money, and then we all get a pizza afterwards.
I mean, that sounds good to me.
I would love that. That's my new mantra for 2021. Let's all solve a scary mystery and get a pizza afterwards.
I'm in.
Sounds great.
I think that covers all of the questions that I had written down for you here. Is there anything else that you wanted to add, or any memories that came up while we were chatting?
I'm trying to think. I mean, like I said, most of my memories is just having a lot of fun talking with everybody, and talking with John specifically about, what gags we could do, what haircuts we could do. I would say at the end of the day, we actually didn't hear the songs. Like, we would suggest what the songs would be, but we didn't hear the songs until basically the final thing was produced. So it was a really nice thing to be able to watch this episode that you watch and then get to like laugh all over again because you're listening to this song that like John wrote that is so fun or so funny, but like it's a surprise to you. It's like a brand new thing that's just been added. So yeah, I would say it was just a really fun experience all around. And I'm glad that people, like, despite the art, I think that it still got to a lot of people. A lot of people really, really like it. And I still get people coming up to me saying that, at conventions or when I sort of do talks about animation writing, that like the writing on Be Cool Scooby-Doo is like one of their favorite Scooby-Doos. And that's something that really feels nice, that we get to be part of this 50-year tradition that overall people remember fondly.
Definitely. And what is it like to be able to see an episode that you wrote come together with, adding all the music and things like that in?
Oh, it's really fun. I mean, I always say this about every show that I work on, but it really feels like working in animation, you're like tricking the artists into making things for you, because like you write your scripts and you hope they're good, and then by the time you see the animatics and the storyboards and what the artists have done, you're just like, oh, this looks so much more fun, and they've added so much more, and they've plussed these jokes, and they've punched it up even more than before. I really tricked them. I really tricked them into working with me and having fun. I hope I can trick them again. So it's great. It's really, it's a very magical feeling, especially like the first time you see it happen. But yeah, it's a wonderful collaboration, and it's always exciting to see the end result.
Awesome. And just before we end here, do you have any recent projects that you want to promote, or social media channels where people can follow what you're up to?
Sure. You can find me on Twitter at CozyJamble. That is also my website, is cozyjamble.com, where I post up interviews. I post up things that are happening in my life. Most recently, I have been working on the little show Jurassic World Camp Cretaceous. They just announced that we have a second season, and so that is coming out in 2021. And I was story editor, head writer for both season 1 and 2 of that. And then it's already ended, but if people haven't seen it, I was also story editor, head writer for She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, which now all 5 seasons is on Netflix and is a very fun binge watch.
Awesome. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today.
Yeah, of course. This was a lot of fun. It truly was trying to remember everything that happened in that like room, and then just remembering, jokes that we were making. So it was a fun trip down memory lane.
And that concludes today's episode. Another huge thank you to Josie Campbell for chatting with me. For more groovy content, be sure to check at Unmasked SD on Twitter, at Unmasked SD Podcast on Instagram, or at unmaskedsdpodcast.com. You can also find the podcast on Facebook under the Unmasked History of Scooby-Doo podcast. If you liked this episode and want to hear more, also make sure to check those social media channels or the website. Or you can listen to older episodes wherever you like to get your podcast fix. And if you want to follow Josie, you can find her at Cozy Jamble. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for the last episode in this month's Be Cool Scooby-Doo theme, which features writer Marley Halpern Grazer. Scooby Dooby Doo!